Hi everyone! I recently went on one of the biggest trips that I've ever taken. And when I say biggest, I don't mean in length or how long I was gone, I mean in how many people were involved. There were 14 people along for the ride in this trip. That's a lot of people to plan for and keep track of, and a lot of great moments too. So I'm going to take you beginning to end with 14 different moments for 14 different people. Ready? Let's go! Number 1. Before we even left Chicago, my Uncle Greg was running into issues. He and my aunt were stuck in traffic, and then when they finally arrived to the airport, they pulled over somewhere where they thought that they were allowed. There was a man that was going insane, telling them to leave and that they have to move and hurry, even though all they had to do was jump out of the car and grab their bags. It was only going to take a minute, so to calm him down and shut him up, he had to tell him to get the f*** out of here. Number 2. The first activity that we did when we finally got to Paris was check out the Catacombs. We took a long, winding staircase down into the ground, and we wandered through dungeons of bones. These bones were in piles and arrangements, and they just seemed to keep going and going. And my best friend Kate recently moved to Germany, so she met us in Paris. And while we were walking around, she said, "I think these are fake." Number 3. One of my great friends, Riley, is a flight attendant, and she had a layover in Paris on the day that we arrived. We all headed to the Eiffel Tower to drink some wine on the lawn and enjoy the light show. Right on the Eiffel Tower lawn, there are tons of guys that walk around with a bucket of wine and they sell it to you. Riley thought that she had found a deal when she was sold 2 bottles of wine for 7 euros. But right after that, my aunt and uncle bought 2 bottles for 5 euros. Riley reacted to that by saying, "5 euros? I paid 7, give me a beer." That's how to hustle. Number 4. The next day we went for a fantastic food tour through the Montmartre neighborhood in Paris. We tried chocolates, bread, cheese, escargot, wine, you name it. As we walked around, our tour guide Ochno told us fun facts about Paris and the surrounding cities. One of the things that he told us is that accommodation in the city is surprisingly small compared to other places in the world. He said that his own apartment was only 24 square feet. What he didn't know was that we had 2 realtors along for the ride. My Aunt Linda said that it was lost in translation. She asked if he meant meters. He said no. She said there is absolutely no way that your apartment is that small. Number 5. While we were in Paris, we did several family dinners where we had fantastic French food. One of my favorite new things is the croque madame. Check it out if you're ever in Paris. Anytime a waiter would come around and ask us a question, Kendra, who speaks German and English, would confidently say, "Si," which is neither German nor English, and it's also not French. Number 6. On day number 3, we visited the famous Louvre Art Museum. When we first got there, we stood in a very unorganized line for 45 minutes just to see the Mona Lisa. When you finally reach the end of the line, they let about 30 people into a barrier and then let them fight over each other to get a selfie with Mona Lisa. We're hanging out with our girl Mona. You couldn't even get that close. The pictures sucked. When we were done, Michael just said, "She was a bitch." Number 7. Right after we visited the Louvre, we went to the Notre Dame. Because of the tragic fire that happened last year, it's under construction still. You can see that they're building things back up, and there's a fence wrapped around most of the building. When we got done walking around it and just checking out what we could of the outside, we wondered what we were going to do for the rest of the day, and Megan said, "I thought we were going to go in there." We said, "Megan, it caught on fire, you can't go inside." Number 8. After our last day in Paris, we took a train to Munich. Out of all the airports that we visited and all the high-speed trains that we took, we always had the option of getting on a Wi-Fi connection. Michael's dad, John, would look at me concerned and say, "Do you think it's safe to connect to this Wi-Fi?" And I would always say, "Yes." And he would say, "Are you sure they're not going to steal your information?" Number 9. When we arrived in Munich, we rented a van and found our accommodation, which was back in the woods in a very small village. We drove a few minutes to the nearest beer garden so that we could have dinner. Kendra knows German, but we were sat at a long table and she was down at one end, so whenever anyone else was trying to figure out what was on the menu or how to order, we kind of came to a loss. Until the waiter came and Emma said, "Hat das Fleisch?" She could tell us what many things were on the menu and how to order them. Emma had told us that she only took some in high school. I took 2 years in high school and I don't know anything. Number 10. We made the 2.5-hour drive up to a town called Bergebrach, which is where Kendra lived for 6 years while her parents were in the military when she was a kid. While we were there, we had time to kill, so we were trying to find some fun German music to listen to. One song that I recommended was Das alles ist Deutschland, which is the song that we listened to in my high school German class almost every day. Das alles ist Deutschland, das alles sind wir, es gibt es nirgendwo anders, nur hier, nur hier. The song was a hit, and we listened to it several more times throughout the trip. It became the anthem of our time in Germany. Number 11. The most anticipated day of our entire trip had come. Oktoberfest. It was a cold day and we got there a little later than planned, so there weren't a lot of places to sit aside from outside on the patio. But right when we sat down and ordered our beers, a guy came up to us and offered to sell us wristbands for a table inside. We thought that this was excellent and we were going to take the opportunity, but we had to chug our beers first. Now, a beer is a full liter. When we sat down at our table inside, there were some decorative hot peppers on the table. Meili looked at me and said, "Do you want to eat one of those peppers?" And I said, "I guess I'll try one." I only bit off the tip and my mouth was really hot, while she popped the entire thing into her mouth and she was dying. It was really good to see her and had nothing to drink except for beer or some vodka from my flask. Number 12. I said that the day started off pretty crazy by having to chug a liter of beer, but then we sat down and ordered another liter of beer and kept drinking. So pretty early in the day, Eric, who doesn't usually drink, ended up getting sick and we had to send him home early. I had to walk him to an access point where an Uber was willing to pick him up, and along the way he wasn't doing so well. So I said, "You're gonna be okay," and he said, "No, I'm not." It did take him a while until he was okay. Number 13. Back inside the Oktoberfest tent, Meili decided that she didn't want to drink beer, and as I mentioned, I had a flask of vodka that I brought just so I wouldn't have to spend too much money. And so she did keep wanting to have some of my vodka. She hasn't drank much before, but it was legal in Germany, so she followed suit. It wasn't long before she threw up right on our table. My great friend Carolyn, who lives in Germany, was with us at Oktoberfest for the day. She was sitting right next to me and right across from Meili. When I start drinking, I get really chatty, and I hadn't seen her since I went to Germany in 2015. We had a lot to catch up on. As Meili threw up on the table, I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and I was just like, I'm not gonna deal with that, let's just keep talking, so I continued the conversation. Carolyn just looked at me and said, "Can we get out?" Number 14. A lot happened at Oktoberfest. There were only a handful of us that made it all the way to the end of the night, which were Kendra, Meili, Michael, Megan, John, and I. When it was finally time to go, we left the festival grounds and called an Uber back to our accommodation. While we were waiting there though, a guy on a bike rode by and John just said, "I'm gonna pillow fight him," and was just talking a lot of smack for no reason, nobody knows. I hope you enjoyed my 14 moments with 14 people on our trip to Paris and Germany last fall. From now on, I think I'm gonna keep my groups a little smaller. See you next time!